Welcome to This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, brought to you by Riverside Auto Group and produced by WLAQ Sports. Each week, we bring you insight, analysis, interviews, and our predictions for the week's matchups around the Northwest Georgia area. Here are your hosts.
And your hosts are here. We're glad to be here, and it is hard to believe that we're getting ready for our Week 8 edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. I'm Matt Davis, and of course, across the table, as always, we've got Ian Griffin, and here joining us today so we can talk to you about this week's matchups and pick some games a little bit later on. But the thing that we always do right out of the gate, Ian, to start the show is kind of recap last week's action, and it has been an action-packed high school football season as usual. And you did something last week that neither one of us have been able to accomplish through the first 6 weeks of the season. It took until week 7 to do it, and usually that's not the case. But you did not miss a pick last week. Ian went 7-0. I wasn't too shabby at 6-1, but you got me last week, and you got a game back. So right now, I have the lead at 34-12. You are 30-16, so you're 4 games back. But you're starting to kind of scratch and claw your way back in this thing. So congratulations on a good week of picking for you last week, man.
I think I'm going to try to stay hot here, see if we have some differences this week. I don't know. It's a tough slate of games here. There's several that I could see going either way.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get into that slate of games in just a couple of moments as we're in our first segment. But one of the things I did want to do is kind of go back and recap last week. The game that you got on me was between the Manchester Blue Devils and the Tryon Bulldogs, both young teams, graduated a lot of guys off of very successful squads, and Tryon has really been impressive this year. They've had some ups and downs, but they've really improved over the course of the season. I feel like that was really a big win for them last week.
Yeah, and talking to Coach Patrick in the off season about his team this year, he knew they were going to be young, but what he promised Bulldog Nation was that they're going to be well coached, they're going to be well prepared, and I'm going to put them in the best position to succeed. And they played a tough schedule, and to be where they are right now, it's really impressive. And we've said it a lot this year. You better get the Tryon Bulldogs now if you're going to get them, because he's going to build up another upperclassman stacked team going forward, and I expect big things from them. But a big win for them last week.
Absolutely. Another team that picked up another win last week was the Unity Christian Lions. And the thing, and we're going to go into the details about this a little bit later, but the thing that continues to impress about that team is just how well they play on the defensive side of the ball. Normally, when you look at the scores from nine-man football and GAPPS, Georgia Association of Private and Parochial Schools, even the team that loses is going to score a lot of points. But that has not been the case if you're playing the Unity Lions this year. They're great on both sides of the ball, but I would venture to say that they may be a better defensive team this year, as good as they are offensively. I mean, they are shutting teams down, which is pretty unheard of in that league.
Yeah, I mean, they went up against St. Francis, won that game 20-6. They've only allowed 16 points over 6 games.
That's incredible.
Yeah, three shutouts or 4 shutouts? I think 4.
I don't remember the exact number, but a few. No question about that. And then meanwhile, you had Gordon Lee playing Chattooga. They continue their winning ways. They're one of the best teams around the Northwest Georgia area this year. They had a good season last year, but they've got a real shot to contend for the region at the end of the year. And we talked earlier, in the season about how it feels like it's setting up for a Gordon Lee Fannin County showdown to decide that region at the end of the year, and that's really what it's looking like it's going to be. We'll see, but.
Then you said the last time they won a region championship was in the 70s?
It was a long time ago. So that'd be something they haven't done in quite a while. So it'll be interesting to see if they can do that this year. I know we got a long way to go.
Man. That'd be great. When you haven't had a championship in that long, you're really going to savor it and appreciate it when it comes back around.
100%. Meanwhile, you had Almerchi going on the road last week, went over to Dade County. We both felt like that might be a tough matchup for them, and it proved to be. Dade County, I was looking at some stats from them from an earlier game this season. We typically see them as a run-first kind of team, but I was looking at some stats from a game from early in the season, and they actually throw the ball a fair amount nowadays. I think it's a little bit different of an offense than we got used to. I don't know how this game unfolded because I couldn't find a game story on it or anything like that. But it was a tough night for the Indians. Meanwhile, Coosa went to Christian Heritage, and they were competitive in that game for a while, but then Christian Heritage pulled away from what I understand.
Yeah. And whoever was reporting scores to us Friday night was pulling some shenanigans too, because we went to 3 different sites and the score was the same, and it had Coosa up big, and that was not the case. So come on, guys, integrity out there when you're reporting scores. Don't try to pull that stuff.
Yeah, I don't really get what the appeal to that is for people.
Yeah.
But that's probably just kids being kids or whatever, being knuckleheads. But what can you say? Also, we were at a game down in Lindale. It was the Darlington Tigers and the Pepperell Dragons. And for a good part of the first half, it looked like we were going to have potentially a classic on our hands. Yeah. But then it kind of got away from the Tigers, and the Pepperell Dragons picked up their second region win in as many weeks, and they're 2-0 in the region. So we'll see what this Pepperell Dragons team can accomplish as they go, throughout the rest of the season. One of the things we talk about when we talk about Region 6A D1 is the amount of talent that's in this particular region and how good it is from top to bottom. There are no weeks off in Region 6A Division 1.
No, and Pepperell's got a really well-balanced roster. Getting to see them last week. It was nice to watch them play. They have 2 freshman running backs, right?
And we got one of their names wrong. I realized after the game they had made a jersey change, had a new player that came in, I believe, from somewhere in Alabama. And I don't remember his name off the top of my head. I should have written it down before the show, but we apologize to that young man. I think his last name is Davis. But we were calling him Blaze. Yeah. And but we just roll with the roster that we're given, and so we apologize to that young man for not getting his name correct on the broadcast. But we were working with what we had. I'm not trying to make excuses. We probably should have found a way to get that right. But anyway, I mean, they've got a couple of freshman running back that are good to complement their experienced players, and Maddox Garcia and Sam Ross and Mostant had himself a game. They're big and physical up front as well. So there's a lot of ingredients that this team has that's contributed to their success.
Right, sure. and at this point, I mean, Haralson County could have something to say about it, but it feels like it's going to be Pepperell and Bremen and Hurd competing for that region championship. So, and tomorrow night, Pepperell travels to Bremen. That should be a good ball game.
Should be. Yeah. And then also you had Rockmart playing Sonorville. And the streak continues. Does that make it 64 region wins consecutively? Last one that they lost was in 2016. That is quite a streak. Hasn't been broken yet.
Something else.
Mm-hmm. And then meanwhile, the Calhoun Yellow Jackets more or less had their way up at Adairsville against the Tigers. Off last week were the Cartersville Canes. Cedartown Bulldogs Model had a bye week. Their last bye week of the regular season, and Rome was idle. So we'll be talking about all those teams coming up on the program today. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and run down the list of games that we're going to be picking today, and then we'll take our first break, and then we'll dive back into the picks right after the break. But you're going to have Unity at Young Americans. Christian Eagles, Ian, when you referenced that name earlier, you started singing the David Bowie song,
I can't help
Americans, and now it's stuck in my head over and over again. Then you've got a rivalry game here, and Almerchi Indians going to Coosa to take on the Eagles. The Haralson County Rebels are going out to Model to Woodard-Tuggle Stadium to take on the Blue Devils. Very good Haralson County team. You've got Pepperell Dragons at Bremen Blue Devils, as you just mentioned. The Hiram Hornets with a brand-new coach are going to take on the Cedartown Bulldogs. Also with a veteran coach, but new to this team, the Cedartown Bulldogs. You've got the Cartersville Canes going to Cass. That is going to be some kind of environment for a game, isn't it?
Yeah.
And a tough one to pick, I think.
Very much so, because Coach Gates has Cass believing. They're going to expect to win at home against Cartersville. They're not going to be scared of the Canes. If there's a team you could be scared of, it'd be the Canes. But I mean, Cass has just built that program up to a point where they're going to expect to win that game.
And they got real close a couple of years ago.
Yeah, they did.
Last year was a little different because they didn't have their quarterback by the time they got to this game. But 2 years ago, I think it was an overtime game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was.
They ended up losing, but still.
Yeah, the injury bug got Cass last year, knocked them off the rails a little bit, but they're healthy right now. And I have to be honest, we got to buy. I was like, man, maybe I should just ride down to Cass. Check that game out.
That'd be electric, for sure.
But that's a big time game.
Well, you could go over to Barron Stadium. The Rome Wolves are back in action at home. They're going to be taking on the Villa Rica Wildcats, and that'll be the last game we pick today. Teams that are off this week of local note: The Darlington Tigers have their second bye week of the regular season, and then the Rockmart Yellow Jackets are also idle this weekend. So that's a list of the games that we're going to be talking about, and we're going to do it when we come back. But right now we do need to take a break, so we'll do that. We'll come back and we'll pick some games for you. We're glad you're with us on this episode, the Week 8 edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football.
Are you shopping for a new car, truck, or SUV? Riverside Auto Group has a location to meet your needs. Browse their selection online at riversideautogroup.com or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, Riverside Nissan in Rome, or Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group.
Good morning and welcome back to our Week 8 edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. It's picking time, baby. Picking and grinning.
Picking and grinning. That's what we do here on this program. And we're going to jump into our first game here on the list for today. And we're going to talk about a GAPPS matchup that is Georgia Association of Private and Parochial Schools. And it's the Unity Lions, 6-0. Perfect for the season, 3-0 in region play. They're going to Young Americans Christian to take on the Eagles, who are a very successful team at 4-1, 1-1 in region play. And Ian, the place to start now when you talk about this Unity team, and you referenced it earlier, giving up 16 points all season. So they've given up a couple of touchdowns, a few field goals, and that is it. And when your defense is causing that many issues for opposing teams, it really takes a lot of pressure off your offense. They've had a couple of games where they only scored 20 points, which is a low-scoring game for a Unity offense. But it didn't matter because they're not giving up any points. So how do you see this one?
Well, I think this is going to be the toughest test Unity's had this season. This Young Americans team is they're 4-1, quality loss. And some wins against some good programs as well. They don't give up a ton of points. So I think this is going to be a low-scoring 9-man football affair. So I'm not betting against Coach Hump and the Lions. I just can't do it. I think they go on the road. I think they get it done. They lean on the defense. I think the offense gets hot. And they score the win on the road.
I'm with you on this one, Ian. Again, it's one of those situations when your defense is playing that well, it takes some pressure off. You're on the road. If you get off to a little bit of a slow start, as long as your defense is keeping you in the game long enough for you to get your offense rolling, you can have a lot of success. And that is certainly something that Unity is capable of in this game. You referenced the one loss that the Eagles have had this year. It was a 6-point loss to Harvester, which is a really good football team. Yeah. So, getting this game at home, it definitely makes a difference for Young Americans. But at the end of the day, even if it's close for a half, I think in the second half that we're going to see Unity pull things their way and pull away in this football game and probably wins it by a couple of scores.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But we agree on this one. Moving on into Region 7, Class A Division 1. Here's a rivalry game here. It's the Almerchi Indians searching for their first win of the season. Meanwhile, you've got a 1-5 Coosa Eagles team. Both teams have not picked up a win in region play. Really important game. Series history-wise, it's pretty lopsided. The Eagles lead 38-7. They won it last year in a close battle, 19-14. But give us your take on this matchup, man.
Yeah, I mean, you've got these cross-county rivals that are going to be locking horns tomorrow out at Branch Bragg Field. The Indians, as you said, they come in winless. Coosa is riding a 5-game losing streak of their own after opening with a 34-0 shutout of Southeast Whitfield. They've dropped their last 5. So both these teams want to get that taste out of their mouth. So they're going to come in hungry. But at the end of the day, I feel like Coosa's a year ahead in their progression here, and I think Charlie Cannon and his ability to move the offense, I just think Coosa's going to find a way to score more points.
I'm going to agree with you on this one, man. I think there's a little bit of an opening left for Almerchi in this game because when you look at Coosa's schedule, they have struggled defensively. They've had 3 games, I think, where they've given up 40 or more points. And I think that Almerchi, they can find a way to move the ball on the defense and find a way to score some points. But to your point, I think with the great quarterback play that you get from Charlie Cannon, some of their other playmakers, ability to run the ball, also move it through the air, I think it's going to be a tall order there for the Indians to keep them out of the end zone enough to have a chance to win this game with their offense. So I'm going to go with Kusa in this game, but I do think that Almerchi's going to have some bright spots in the game. They're going to score some points, but I just don't think it's going to be enough points to pick up the victory here. So we agree on this one. You need some differences, man.
I know. I got to pick them like I see them.
Well, that's the deal. So we'll move on to the next game. This matchup we've got some insight on because we've seen one of the two teams, and buddy, they're a good football team. We're going to talk about the Haralson County Rebels going to Woodard Tuggle Stadium out at Model to take on the Blue Devils. Haralson County ends 4-2. They're 1-1 in region play. Lost a game to Heard County last week, I believe it was. Models 1-4 on the season. They're 0-1 in region play after dropping one a couple of weeks ago in dominant fashion for Bremen. They're just an unbelievably good football team. Yeah. This is a tough region. But tell us a little bit about this Haralson County team and the challenges that they're going to present for Model.
Well, there's no secret what Haralson wants to do. They want to run the ball down your throat, and they can do that because they are so big and physical on the line of scrimmage, and they've got a heck of a defense too. So Model's going to have to throw some wrinkles in there to hit some big plays on offense, because running the ball between the tackles against this team is going to be tough. So Jaden Woodley, get him the ball in space, let him work, and if Model can play a clean game, not turn the ball over, and move the ball on offense, they could stay in this ball game. I just, at the end of the day, Haralson's going to run it and run it and run it some more, and they've got some athletes too. So I think the Rebels will be too much for the Blue Devils.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big question mark, and you definitely hit on this, is can you match the physicality that you're going to get from this Haralson County Rebels team on the line of scrimmage? Because when you look at Model, they've got some playmakers. Their quarterback C.J. Walker, you referenced Jaden Woodley at wide receiver. They've got a couple running backs, Colin Watson. I forget the other young man's name that totes the mail for them a lot. But they've got some guys that can make some plays, but can you get them loose and create some lanes for them to get going? That is the question mark. And a lot of teams are having a hard time this year figuring out a way to answer that, in the positive against this Haralson County team. So at the end of the day, I think Haralson County will win, but we'll see what Coach Honeycutt and the rest of his staff is able to dial up, and also getting this home could help as well. So we'll see, but I'm going to go with Haralson County in the game also. All right, this one's a big one here. We're going to talk about one more game before we take another break, but we're going to talk about the Pepperell Dragons hitting the road. Tough place to play. They're going to Bremen to play the Blue Devils. Ian, you got a Pepperell team that's riding high after a rivalry victory last week. And a lot of times, like we were talking about this, with Lauren Smith this morning related to Alabama beating Georgia. I mean, you got a tough game coming up the next week. You got to have a short-term memory whether you lose that game or whether you win that game. And in this case, the Pepperell Dragons riding high after a win. I know they were super excited about it and they wanted to celebrate, but they had to keep that celebration pretty short and get right back to work because they're going to Bremen. So give us a little insight into this one, man.
Well, what a road they've traveled, and Coach Haywood's second year, lost a lot of heartbreaking games last season. That trend kind of continued early this season in non-region play, but we felt good about this Pepperell roster, and while the record wasn't where they wanted it to be, they felt like they were getting better and better as they got into region play, and so far so good. And yeah, you can celebrate your win over a rival, and I know that was a big win for Pepperell, but now you're in championship contention, and you got to stay laser focused. Because Bremen is no joke. Heard is no joke. But the wins over Temple and Darlington, it bodes well. The Dragons are going to have a chance. We saw Bremen last year. They are big and nasty up front on the line. They've got a defensive tackle that can absolutely wreak havoc. But if Pepperell doesn't get too cute, if they run the football, and they can run the football, I think that's the recipe for the Dragons to go get a win. I'm going to take Bremen close.
Yeah, this is a really intriguing matchup because you referenced how we were pretty high on this roster, And I think that's before either one of us were very much aware of freshman running backs Trey Chapman, and I believe the other young man's name that we had wrong on the roster last week was Darquavius Davis. You can correct me on that if you want to, and you know more about that than we do. But those guys can flat out run the football, and that complements a lot of experience in guys like Maddox Garcia and Sam Ross, and then also Moss Tant, who can really throw the ball. But he did a great job running the ball behind his line of scrimmage last week, had a big game. So I think that one of the things, again, with Pepperell is, and I'm sure that Coach, Haywood has preached this all week, we got to forget about the fact that we picked up that win last week. We got to get ready for Bremen and getting those guys focused and those sorts of things and playing with a certain edge. You don't want to get too high. You don't want to get too low, those sorts of things. I think they'll be ready for the game. It's going to be a challenge.
I think the recipe that if they can run the ball like they did against Arlington in that second half and control the clock when you're on the road, that can go a long way to pulling off a victory. So we'll see if the Dragons can do that, because I think Bremen has got some beasts up front, and they might be able to slow the Dragons' rushing attack down and force Moss Tant to beat him with his arm. So it's gonna be fun. I want the insight from Clay. Clay, if you're listening, man, you gotta let us know how it goes down. That's gonna be a fun one.
No question. Yeah. I'm with you. I'm going to take the Bremen Blue Devils in a close one. Obviously, getting this game at home and the fact that they're big and physical and have that Gator mentality that Davis Russell, the grandson of Ert Russell, brings to the table as their head coach. They're going to be ready for this game, and I'm going to take Bremen, but no result of this game is going to shock me.
Yeah.
I mean, none. Yeah. So we'll see what happens, but certainly we'll be rooting for the local team, the Pepperell Dragons. Well, that is going to put a wrap on this segment. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we got a few more games that we're going to talk and pick, but we're quickly running out of time. So we'll go ahead and take this break. We'll be right back. This is This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, Week 8 edition, October the 2nd, 2025. We're in October, believe it or not. We'll be right back.
Are you shopping for a new car, truck, or SUV? Riverside Auto Group has a location to meet your needs. Browse their selection online at riversideautogroup.com or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, Riverside Nissan in Rome, or Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group.
All right, and we welcome you back into this episode of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. This is our Week 8 edition. We've got 3 more games to discuss and pick. So, Ian, we're just going to dive right back into it, and we're going to start with a game that I think is really intriguing in 7-4A. It is the Hiram Hornets. They got a brand new coach this season. Joe Scott takes over for Coach Fominaya, who had a lot of success there for the Hiram Hornets. Great coach. So they're breaking in a new coach there. And then, of course, at Cedartown, everybody here locally knows the name that is leading the Bulldogs. And we know him quite well because he spent 21 seasons as the head coach over at Darlington and had a tremendous amount of success there. And before that, he was an assistant under Jerry Sharp, I think, for 9 years. So he was at Darlington for 30 years. A man that really knows how to coach a football team, motivate a football team down at Cedartown. I'm really interested to get your take on Hiram at Cedartown.
Yeah, this is a tough one because you got 2 teams that come in with 2-4 records, but when you look at their schedules, they've played some really tough competition. Hiram especially. I don't know if you remember talking to Coach Haywood for our coaches preview last year. He was so high on the Hiram freshman class that was coming in. He was familiar with them from being at Woodland, and he said that he thought they'd go out and win a state championship before they were done. So this is a young Hiram team, new coach. So you're going to have some bumps in the road. But the Hornets, I mean, they've been really good these last few years, and they've got to go play Cedartown. 2 young teams. Usually I go with the home team, but I'm taking Hiram.
And I get that. That's initially the way that I was kind of leaning in this one, and we've talked about how young this Cedartown team is this season, but you've already seen some bright spots for them. They picked up the victory where they beat Pepperell there, got a stop there on a 2-point conversion, found a way to win that game. They had a lopsided win over Burkmar. I think they kind of got off to a little bit of a slow start there, but then got things in motion, picked up a win. And then I'm going to throw in the 34-31 loss to Alexander. It's never a bright spot to lose a game, but at the same time, they were competitive, and they were in that game at the end and had a shot to win it. And eventually, when you've got a well-coached team that's got some talent, even if they're young, if they're motivated and ready to go, they're going to win some games.
Yeah.
And I believe in Coach Athan, what he brings to the table. I've used the word motivator a lot. He's going to have these guys ready. They're going to have a great game plan. And as long as everybody's on the same page, I think they're going to have an opportunity to get a region win at home. And I think that could be one of those things. If they can get that win, it's something to build your program on. So I think these guys are going to be ready. I'm going to go in the opposite direction on this one, even though I kind of do see the game as a coin flip in a lot of respects. But I just really believe in this coaching staff, and I think they're going to have a great game plan. They're going to be ready to go and be sharp and focused for the game. And I think Cedartown's going to get the win. So I'm going the opposite direction. I go with the Bulldogs. We have a difference there.
We sure do.
All right. Now, this one, a lot to unpack here. I'm really curious to see which direction you go. We're going to talk about the Cartersville Canes, 6-0, unblemished record, 2-0 in region play. Cass Colonels, they're 6-1, 3-0 in region play. The Canes lead the series 46-5. They've won 11 straight games in the series. 2 years ago, it took overtime to do it. Cass has been getting real close in this one. Not last year because they were down their starting quarterback and had some injury bug things to deal with last year. But man, this one I really feel like could go either way.
Yeah.
Which way do you think it's going to go?
This is a tough one, and I have been burned for picking against the Canes so many times because they are a rock-solid program. But they got to travel over to White, Georgia, and they got to take on the Cass Colonels, and the Cass Colonels are going to be fired up for this one. Brody McWhorter is all-world. I'm going Cass. Home team. They finally get off the schneid.
I'm not surprised you went in that direction, and I think that one of the things that bodes well for this Cass team, we talk about their quarterback all the time, obviously, because he's D1 talent going to Mississippi State. He can distribute the ball, but he's got some playmakers. They had a running back over Woodland last week that rushed for 236 yards. So they got something at the line of scrimmage, and they've got some guys that can make some plays, on the ground as well. So I think they've got a lot of ingredients that put them in position to potentially pick up a victory here in what a lot of people would consider an upset. I don't know what the spread is. I don't really follow that much in high school ball, even though I know that information is out there if you want it. But I just look at it like the Canes have slightly better numbers on both sides of the ball, on offense and defense, and they play a tough schedule. Both teams do. But, Cartersville's not going to let Cass slip up on them by any stretch of the imagination. They know what they're dealing with. They're not going to take them lightly. They're going to have a great game plan. Both teams will.
Great coaches on both sidelines. Coach Foster and Coach Gates, class acts all the way, man. They know how to put a program together.
This is going to be one of the games of the year, hands down. Not just in Northwest Georgia, in the state of Georgia. This is one of those ones that if you don't have something to do, to your point, you want to at least consider being there. And I think GPB's got some kind of stream or something that you can watch if you can't make it. But I'm going to go with the Canes here, because obviously we talked about the streak. Cass has been close, haven't been able to get over the hump there. But it's going to happen, you feel like, at some point. And this year probably is going to be one of their better chances to make it happen. I just can't pull the trigger on it. I'm going to take Cartersville to win the game, but I won't be surprised by any outcome in this one. Well, all right. We have two differences, right? Yeah, in the last two games we picked. So we got one more game. It'll be interesting to see if we have a difference here.
I don't think we will, but you got the Villa Rica Wildcats traveling to Barron Stadium to take on the Rome Wolves. Both of these teams are riding 3-game winning streaks. Rome had the tough loss to Creekside of the Corky Kell and then let a lead slip away late against Carrollton. Really had a chance to knock the Trojans off, but they've been hot ever since and really clicking on offense. The defense has always been stingy at Rome, and that's the case again this year. I could see the Wildcats coming in and making a game out of this, but I think the home crowd and that atmosphere downtown at Barron Stadium is going to be too much. The Wolves win their 4th in a row.
I'm just going to go ahead and say I agree with you. I think the Wolves are going to win, but I think one of the things that's interesting, Ian, about this matchup is when you look at the first 3 games that Villa Rica played, losses to Troop, Northgate, and Central.
Yeah,
those 3 teams are
tough.
undefeated right now. Yeah. And so we always talk about coaches that, use the term iron sharpens iron. When you play tough teams like that, you get tougher, you get better. And I think that's one of the things that we've seen from Villa Rica. They've reeled off 3 wins since they've been in region play. So this may be somewhat of a tricky matchup. The Wolves had a bye last week, an extra week to look at film, prepare, heal any bumps and bruises, rest up a little bit, and get ready to go for this game. And they've lit up the scoreboard the last 3 games. So I feel like that offense is clicking. And they could be a force to be reckoned with once they get to the postseason. So I think Rome's going to win the game. But we'll see, if Villa Rica can put up a fight in this one. I think they'll keep it interesting for a while. But at the end of the day, I think there's just too many playmakers on this Rome team for Villa Rica to handle, and they're going to score enough points to get over the hump. Yeah. So we do not have a difference there. But that's it, man. That's going to put a wrap on this edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. Week 8 edition, as always, Ian. Appreciate your time, man. It's great to talk about these matchups and make our predictions. It's a lot of fun.
That's right. We get to sit at home and watch it all go down this Friday on our bye week. So back in the booth next week, and good luck to all of our area teams. It's going to be a fun Friday night.
All right, folks. Well, thanks for tuning in for the Week 8 edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, brought to you each and every week by Riverside Auto Group. We hope your team wins this weekend and hope you have a safe weekend. We appreciate you. That wraps it up.
This has been another edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, brought to you by Riverside Auto Group and produced by WLAQ Sports. We appreciate you tuning in and invite you to tune in again next week. Please like, share, and subscribe.